This is the 18 Strong Podcast with Jeff Pellizzaro, episode number 11.
Welcome to the 18 Strong Podcast, where you get direct access to the world's greatest experts on training harder, practicing smarter, and playing better golf. Now, here's your host, Jeff Pellizzaro.
What is going on, everybody? I have to say I'm pretty fired up after just getting back from the World Golf Fitness Summit out in Carlsbad, California, which was put on by TPI, or the Titleist Performance Institute, this past week. Got to hang out and spend a lot of great time with some great folks and listen to some incredible presentations, learned a ton, got to pick a lot of people's brains, and hopefully made some connections where we'll be able to get some new guests on the 18 Strong Podcast to share some of the insights that they gave us at the World Golf Fitness Summit to bring along and share with you guys. So really, really good stuff going on in the golf world. Titleist Performance Institute, you guys did a fantastic job putting on the event and just bringing in some of the best as far as speakers are concerned, both people from inside the Titleist organization and outside, including guys like Mike Boyle, Charlie Weingroff, Dr. Michael Gervais, who was a fantastic speaker. I had never had the opportunity of seeing him or hearing him, and he was incredible. So if keep your fingers crossed, we'll see what we can do to get him on the show possibly. But then, Jason Glass, Lance Gill, Greg Rose, all those guys. So we really, really had some great information coming at us. And just a quick shout out to all the folks that I got to hang out with for most of the week and spent most of my time with, all the lab rats from the Jason Glass crew. You guys from Vancouver, Florida, Denmark, Holland. Love you guys. Thank you for bringing me into your group and, sharing your insights. So I was able to coerce a lot of them to coming onto the podcast in the future too. So we've got some great stuff coming for you guys. In today's episode, which I actually recorded prior to the World Golf Fitness Summit, but this is Dr. Austin Panter, and I got to spend some time with Austin out in California as well. Austin is a local guy here near St. Louis, and so we've been able to connect, and we'll kind of tell that story a little bit. But Austin's a great guy, doing some awesome things in the golf world, really making some incredible connections with Winchester Sport and Spine, which is where he works, and then just the connections he's making and the players that he's working with. So got a lot to share with him, basically talking about the chiropractic world, what they're doing with their golfers, how they can help you as a golfer, whether you're a high-level amateur looking to go professional, you're a professional golfer, or if you are just your everyday average golfer looking to get a little bit better and looking to feel better. So despite common belief, chiropractors and physical therapists are not always mortal enemies, which you'll see when Austin and I are talking. We get along very well. We are hoping to really work together here in the St. Louis area to get some things going. But I think that what they're doing is absolutely beneficial to the golfing population and general population. And so I just want to say that we are not mortal enemies, physical therapists and chiropractors. And then lastly, guys, thank you again so much for all the great feedback, all the reviews. Hopefully, if you check out the Facebook page, you'll see a bunch of pictures from the World Golf Fitness Summit. Had some T-shirts floating around there with the 18 Strong logo on it, which was really cool. All the people supporting the 18 Strong crowd. But had a suggestion from a listener and actually a client of mine. His name is Wes. Wes suggested that for the reviews in iTunes, it'd be pretty cool to have you guys throw out some questions. So if you have any questions for me that I can answer quickly and hopefully get to and put on the podcast, I would love to do that. And hopefully that'll drive a little more interaction between that. Again, the reason that I push the reviews on iTunes so much is that's how Apple looks at things, and that's how it kind of ranks in the search engine. So it definitely helps to get the 18 Strong podcast out there a little bit more, get the word out. So if you don't know how to leave a review, by all means, hit me up on Twitter at Jeff Pellizzaro. I'd be happy to help you figure it out. Or maybe in the future I'll post a video or something on how to actually find the podcast in iTunes and go ahead and leave a review. So again, thank you guys. Enjoy this episode with Austin Panter. I think you'll get a whole lot out of it, and I will catch you on the flip side. Hey everybody, welcome back to the 18 Strong Podcast. Got a great guest here today, Austin Panter, who is with Winchester Spine and Sport. And Austin and I really just kind of got to know each other not too long ago briefly through a good friend of ours, Skip Burkmeyer, who's one of the greatest local amateur players in St. Louis and in the state of Missouri. So first of all, welcome, Austin, to the 18 Strong podcast.
Thanks, Jeff, for having me. It's an honor. You're doing a great job on this podcast, and I'm kind of an outlier being a chiropractor, not a fitness guru, but I hope it's a good one for us today, and we'll have some good information for everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's kind of what I want to do is get a little bit of everything, chiropractors, fitness guys, medical, mental, a little bit of everything. And I know that you guys are doing some great stuff and, working with quite a bit of top-notch players. You're in Moscow Mill, is that correct?
That's correct. It's no one's really heard of that place out there, but it's just 45 minutes straight west of downtown St. Louis. And it's the place where, my mentor, he opened up 10 years ago, and we've been building ever since. I've been in the office since February, and it's going really good, and we're really starting to get into the golf aspect side of things, and it's going good. So
awesome. And, being 45 minutes from the city, we'll still consider you guys in St. Louis. You're close enough.
We appreciate it. Thank you. Thanks for including us.
And, you and I have kind of talked a little bit about, wanting to put St. Louis on the map a little bit more in the golf performance aspect of it. And so I'm really excited first of all, for me to learn more about what you guys are doing, because I haven't had a chance to come out and visit you guys yet, and I do want to do that. But then also just for the listeners to hear, what you guys are doing, the cutting edge stuff that you're doing, and how it can improve their game, and what you guys are doing for the tour players you're working with, and just the everyday average Joe golfers that you're playing with. So before we get into all that, let's get a little more background on you, your your schooling, sports, all that stuff, and where does Austin Panter come from?
Sure. Well, I'm a St. Louis boy, born and raised, and then I actually moved to Kansas when I was in high school and went to school out there, and fortunate enough to play football in high school and all throughout the younger years as well. And I was fortunate enough to have a scholarship offered to me by the University of Michigan, Go Blue. And I attended school up there for a couple of years, played football with the program for Coach Lloyd Carr my first couple of years, and then Coach Rodriguez my last year. And that's where I met my wife, who was at the time playing softball for the Michigan Wolverines as well. And she's from Eureka, Missouri, which is just south of the city here, about 30 minutes. And once we got engaged, we moved back here to St. Louis. And I had a career-ending shoulder injury my senior year of football, unfortunately. And that led me to chiropractic school, where I started back in the August of 2012 and, graduated this past April. And that's where I met my mentor, who owns the office out in Wentzville, Moscow Mills area. And I've been out there since February, and it's going really good. And, I've always enjoyed golf. I've always enjoyed the personal, fortitude that you have to get out there each and every day and just try to do your best. And it's a challenging game, and I've never had the time to devote to it, but I've always enjoyed the game. And after my football career was over with, I've really started to pick it up, and that's where I've met, great top-level amateurs and pros and guys like you, Jeff, who, are in the fitness world. And we're just trying to, out there at the office, just continue to build, the Midwest, and St. Louis is a golf hub. You always hear of the East Coast, facilities that have the weather and stuff like that, south in Florida and stuff like that, and always the West Coast too. But you never really hear of too many, prime locations in the Midwest, which we, are trying to offer and trying to make, St. Louis a hot spot for golf fitness, with you guys, and golf performance and golf medical treatment, which is what we do out the office. So long story short, it's going good, and we're excited for what we have to come and what we're going with so far.
Awesome. And just a little background is, I got a call from Skip a couple months ago. And for those of you that don't know Skip, Skip really is one of the best amateurs that Missouri has seen in a long, long time. Pretty much, it was almost sickening, like how often he was winning stuff. And, you just kind of expect that Skip would win the next tournament. So, but, great guy, has been a friend and client for a long time. And I want to thank him for introducing us. It was pretty cool. He gave me a call, and he's like, hey, have you heard of these guys at Winchester Spine and Sport? They're doing some pretty cool stuff. I just started working with them, and I want you to meet Austin. You know, he's really involved in the golf and is really wanting to get this thing going in St. Louis. And so you and I, you know, I mean, I think he called me on maybe like a Tuesday, and we literally met at our gym on Thursday.
I think that's right. Yeah, it's great. It's funny how things work. And Skip's a phenomenal guy, phenomenal golfer. I think he just qualified. I think it was his 29th or 30th USGA Championship Series. You know, whether it's the Amateur Series or the Team Championship Series. I think he just qualified for the 30th. Time that he's able to go to USGA Championship. And, you know, I was just with him and the runner-up at the U.S. Med-Am, Brad Nursky, out at, you know, French Lick with those guys at the state team event this past September. And it was great. They're great guys. And, they, like you said, they introduced us to each other and really trying to get the golf aspect in St. Louis and the Midwest kicking. And I think they did a good job, and it's going good. So
yeah, absolutely. You know, and when Skip called me and told me to meet with you, and we did. You know, all of a sudden, I kind of started following you on social media, which is kind of how, you know, we connect with everybody these days. It's pretty amazing, and just started seeing, you know, the stuff you were posting, and, you know, saw, oh man, now he's at the you know, in French Lick with Brad Nursky and these guys, and so really kind of saw what you were doing and took a big interest. And so I want to get the listeners to be able to see and hear a little bit more about what you're doing. So as we get into that, let's talk a little bit more in general terms, because not everybody has been to a chiropractor. Not everybody knows exactly what chiropractors do. So give us a little bit of an idea, just generally, you know, what can somebody expect when they go see a chiropractor, and then specifically when they go see you guys?
Sure. And I hope we don't get outcast since you're a physical therapist and I'm a chiropractor, and, you know, we're good buddies and friends and talking and stuff like that. But, you know, times have changed. Chiropractors have always been looked upon as, you know, negative back in the early, you know, 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s. And, you know, back in the day, chiropractors would be jailed if they were caught, you know, adjusting or manipulating somebody. But times have changed, and as the research comes out and proves that chiropractic therapy is, you know, beneficial to people, it's really good. And, you know, our whole concept and idea of what we offer in our office, and, you know, what a patient should expect is, when you come in, you know, you get a great initial medical consultation. You know, we're there to look at everything from, you know, your stress to your nutrition to all kinds of different things, and that plays a role in your body. And, you know, what we do as the chiropractors is we adjust and manipulate. And what does that mean? That means just adding motion into segments throughout the spine, or, you know, your extremities, your hands, your feet, your knees, whatever it may be. We're just adding motion to segments that aren't moving. So we're not really putting bones back into place or anything like that. And for example, if I took an x-ray of your back, Jeff, and I adjusted you, and then I took an x-ray afterwards, there would be no change in placement of bones or anything like that. We're just adding motion to segments that aren't moving. And that's the reason why golfers, and especially touring pros, are so much into chiropractic, because they're chiropractic junkies, and they can initially feel the motion that we add in an adjustment or manipulation. They can take that to the driving range and feel the increased range of motion throughout their back, throughout their hips, throughout their feet, arms, etc. And that's the reason why, you know, we're trying to really portray and get the chiropractic out there for the golfing world, because of the great success that we see, you know, with the touring pros that come and visit us out in Moscow Mills, and the top level amateurs like Skip and Brad that come and, you know, get treated by us because they're able to absolutely get the range of motion. And you know what's great? Those guys feel it just as much, and we can help, you know, just the everyday weekend warrior who wants to go out there and get better just by increasing their range of motion and stuff like that. So that's a long story short. That's what it is, you know, just the increased range of motion and so forth.
Well, you know, like you said, I'm a physical therapist by training. I'm a little bit more in the fitness side these days, but it's kind of amazing how many people will preface, you know, say they've gone to a chiropractor, or they're going to the chiropractor, and they'll preface it when they're talking to me like, I know physical therapists don't like chiropractors. And I just think that's so funny. And you know, it is a sign of, you know, the past, not necessarily so much the future. And I'm sure there's some chiropractors and physical therapists that don't necessarily agree with each other with certain things that they're doing. But
Absolutely. Absolutely. You hit it right on the head, Jeff. And, as times are changing, as the medical model is changing in our world today, you have to just think about not what is best for you, but what's best for the patient. Having a co-management of care between a physical therapist, between a chiropractor, between a medical doctor, or anything like that. That's the most important thing that we as our clinic, our staff believe in, and having great referrals and knowing what you can do and can't do. And so being able to really distinguish, can I help this patient? Does he need more rehab with my physical therapist? Does he need to go to the medical doctor, or whatever it may be? That's what we really pride ourselves in. And that's the way that the model should be run. I understand that sometimes it's not like that, but you got to think about what's best for the patient, what everybody should deserve and need.
Yeah, there's so many pieces to the puzzles where, I'll get a guy that comes into my gym and, maybe he's struggling with a neck issue or a back issue or something. And I know just from my past work in the clinic that, he could probably just benefit from a quick adjustment from somebody like you, and he'll feel a million times better. And, so in that situation, it's like, yeah, I'm going to send him over to Austin, or we send, a lot of our guys to a guy named Mike Murphy, who here in St. Louis that works with the Blues. And, you guys can fix them up real quick if it's the right diagnosis and get them back going right away. Whereas, if I send them to physical therapy, which they're not allowed to do, at least here in Missouri, they're not allowed to do the manipulating and adjusting like you guys can do. So it's not necessarily the right fit for me to send them there, even though that's my background, that's what I know. Knowing the right place and time to push your client or your patient in what direction, like you said, to make them better is very important. I think that's where the general public and the people listening can really benefit from knowing, that chiropractic has a huge place and is doing some great, great things with these golfers out there.
Right. And what's also great, Jeff, is, the chiropractic, has its foundations in low back pain, and that's what it's always known for. But as times change and, education systems change and more research comes out there that, low back pain is just one thing that chiropractic can help, from neck pain to shoulder pain, even to, knees and hips and so forth like that, especially in the golfers, the internal hip range of motion that we need on the hips, or, whatever it is. It's not just confined to the low back, but it's the whole body and the whole spectrum. And that's where you have, a good team environment with a great, physical therapist and a great golf fitness, personnel and great chiropractor that can really just aggressively attack all aspects of the body.
Right. And another question I was going to ask you is, some people might think that in order to go see you, they have to have an injury. And like you said, most people think neck and back when they think chiropractor. But, as far as just from a general health and wellness perspective, there's a lot of things that you guys do. And I'd like for you to talk a little bit on the term of functional medicine, because
Sure.
I know that that's a big term in the chiropractic world, and a lot of people are hearing more of that these days.
Sure.
But you don't necessarily have to have an injury to go in and see you guys.
Right. And everybody always asks about, wellness care and so forth like that. And, we always use the analogy, do you have wellness care for your car? Like, do you have the oil changed every 3 months or every 3,000, 5,000 miles or so forth? And it's just like taking your car and, driving it every day. You're going to have wear and tear. You're going to go need to get new tires or new alignment. And that's what we base our philosophy on in wellness care. Every once in a while, even if you don't feel bad, come in and get checked up. And that's what, the adjustment, the manipulation does. It helps restore the range of motion in the body. And in turn, it allows the other segments to move freely as well. And the whole idea of also functional medicine, which we just have, for the last year or so in our office, is really, really, really taken off across just not chiropractic, but medical profession as well. Functional medicine is just all about looking at hormones, nutritional counseling, stress, and how everything plays a role in what kind of diagnosis, what kind of problems you have in your life right now, and nobody can really just take, the stress that you have from your work and the medications that you're on and the nutrition that you're eating and put it all under one roof and look at it and say, this is the reason why you have, IBS, or you have Crohn's disease, or you have, chronic headaches or chronic migraines. But with functional medicine, which what we do in our office, we have, a lady that does all that kind of stuff, and we touched on it a little bit as well. She looks at all that broad spectrum, and she brings it home, and she says, listen, your stress from your kids, the stress from your work, the supplementation and the medications that you're on, they're playing a role in this way in your body. And this is the reason why you feel like this. And functional medicine, as it continues to grow, many people are loving it because it's never been around for people to help. And nobody's really looked at the broad spectrum of the whole healthcare industry. And that's what functional medicine does, and just really gets to the root cause of everything. And as we see a big time benefit, not just, in our everyday, men and women that go to work every single day, but also in our athletes. Nobody's ever talking to them about, the stress that they have with their kids, or, the stress that they have with their wife, or, being able to manage that stress, and not the stress on the golf course is what we're talking about, but, having a fight with your wife or your spouse, 30, 45 minutes before you go tee off has absolutely an impact on your ability to go to the golf course and, play the best round you can play, right? And so the whole idea of managing all the certain different components of your healthcare is what functional medicine is about.
Yeah, I've just kind of gotten to learn a little bit more about this stuff, talking with guys like you, people like Allie Gilbert, up in the Greenwich DX Sports Lab, and, some of the trainers that we work at our facility. We've got a guy named Tony who is really good with, the supplementation and hormone stuff. And, it's amazing to me how much that plays into just your performance, the way you feel, your ability to lose weight, your ability to gain strength, all that stuff. And
absolutely. And like you said, Allie Gilbert, I listened to your podcast with her and did some research on at her place, and they're doing it right up there with their functional medicine and what they have going on, and that whole testing, hormonal testing that they do. And that's like what functional medicine's all about right there. And that's doing really good, and they're right on the right track. So,
yeah. All right, let's switch gears and get into what everybody wants to talk about on this, golf fitness podcast, which is golf. And what is it that you guys do specifically with your golfers? I know every golfer is going to be different, but when you go out to a tournament like the one that you were at with Skip and Brad and those guys, what is it that you do while you're there with them?
Sure. Well, the first thing is you have to prepare them for the upcoming tournament, right? And the preparation begins, not just an hour before they go tee off, but it's a couple of days. So what we usually do is we sit down with them and we talk about, what their go-to mechanism is for warm-up. And a lot of guys and top-level amateurs and pros, and mostly, the weekend warriors, what they do is their warm-up is they drive to the golf course. They get there 15 minutes before the tee time. They go hit about 5 or 10 balls on the range, and then they go right to their tee, right? And so being able to really sit down and talk to them and talk about a proper, what we call neurological warm-up for the muscles. And it's not out there, trying to hit 100 balls, trying to find your swing. That's not the right time to do that. But getting the proper neurological warm-up is ideal to get the best round out of your opportunity to play. And that's what we do. That's what I work with Skip and Brad about. And, whether it's, grabbing some, what we use are called Superflex bands. Dave Herman, we have a partnership with Dave, and they provide us with some Superflex bands, Superflex fitness bands. I think they are absolutely great, versatile band to be able to use. You can travel with them, and just getting the proper motion in the body, right? And not using the club to swing, but just the motion in the body of rotation and extension and all that kind of stuff neurologically warms up the system before you even grab a club. And then what that allows the body to do, Jeff, is when you do grab the club, your brain doesn't have to think about the two different aspects of warming up muscles, getting joints loose, and figuring out how the swing feels that day. So what we do is, like I said, we try to get the muscles and the brain synced up before you grab the club, so you don't even have to worry about it, and you just can get out there and you can swing and hit the golf ball and get ready to have the best round of the day.
That's awesome. I would love to see, and I don't know if you guys have any kind of videos of, warm-ups that you've done with your players, or if, maybe even in the future, you and I can create one of those warm-ups on video and, share it with the 18 Strong audience and give them an idea of what a neurological warm-up looks like, because I think it's such a great thing to do before you even touch your club. Like you said, get everything moving, get the muscles working, get them, you don't, I think I read this on TPI. Most golfers, they go out, they take maybe, the guys that think they warm up, they take like 10 air swings, and then they hit a few balls, and that's kind of their warm up.
And how many times, and you see it all the time, Jeff, and I know all the golf people out there will go out there and they'll play and they'll hit a couple bad shots on the driving range, and they'll say, okay, yeah, I'm done or whatever. And then they'll go play, and after 9 holes, they say, man, now I'm starting to feel really loose. Now I'm starting to get better. And always your back nine's always better than your front, because neurologically your system's warmed up, right? Well, why not take 10, 15 minutes before you go play, get a good neurological warm up before you go out and swing your club and stuff like that, and then not have to worry about the wasted shots on the front 9, and you can aggressively attack the course and have a great round and stuff like that. And, as the research shows, muscle memory is kind of I guess you could say, bad word. It's more of a neurological memory, right? So the ways the body fires its patterns and initiates muscles is the way that you need to be able to use it on the golf course. So being able to neurologically warm up the brain with the muscles and syncing them together is the best way to do it with a proper warm up before you go and grab your club and hit 10, 15 balls and get on the course.
And speaking of the neurological warm up on the golf course, a lot of people don't realize that the same thing happens for your physical workouts. When you go to the gym, let's say you're going and you're going to start out with some, maybe some squats or lunges or deadlifts. But before you just go in and jump on the treadmill and warm up that way and then jump into your squats and your deadlifts, to walk yourself through some similar movement patterns, same thing, wakes up the brain, wakes up the motor patterns, and increases the ability for the brain to fire down to the muscles and the muscles to fire back up to the brain. And it's going to make your sessions, whether your goal is lifting more weight, increasing your endurance, whatever it might be, it's going to improve your posture, it's going to improve your tempos, all that stuff, and it's going to make your workouts that much more efficient too.
You're correct. And how many times, so I fall into this trap where you go and you try to get a good workout in, and you just feel like you're going through the motions, right? You have so much other stuff on your plate, your work, you're stressed out, whatever it may be, you're thinking about what you have to do that night, right? And that's because your brain and body aren't linked together. And that's what we try to implement and try to really hone in, that link them both up. Take 5 or 10 minutes just to detox from your phone, from your email, from Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, whatever it is. Get your mind right. Get ready to go work out. Get a great workout in. Get a great warm up in, and go have a great round of golf when you're in the mindset of really just being with there and staying committed and staying right focused with that squat or whatever it may be, fitness wise, and through whatever club you're going to swing. Just stay committed to that club and stay committed to that exercise and stay in the moment.
Yeah, I would say to all the listeners out there, Austin and I are going to challenge you. If you don't usually warm up for your golf round or warm up for your workouts, the next time you go out there, take 10 minutes and put a little thought into this. What are the movement patterns that you're going to be going through? Is it, if it's golf, really work on some of your rotation stuff and just get yourself moving a little bit. But I want you to see if you feel any different during that workout or during the beginning stages of that round of golf than your normal rounds. And I'm going to venture to say that you will probably feel a little more, as Austin said, in tune with your swing, with your movement patterns. You'll just feel a little more fresh throughout the whole thing as opposed to kind of grinding it out.
Right. And as the research says, so you might hear me say that a lot, Jeff, we are really big into research and, out at our office and for both like chiropractic and golf and all that stuff. And as the research shows, if you just visualize before you even grab a club, visualize the shots that you want to hit, visualize the exercise you're going to do to warm up that brain, you can get anywhere between 40 to 50% of neurological activation of the actual movement. So in layman's terms, what does that mean? So if I go and hit a club, a 7-iron or whatever it may be, I'm using 100% of my neurological activation. Whereas if I step back, look at my 7-iron, think about the shot I want to hit, think about, if I want to hit a draw or a fade or I want to hit to that flag there, I can get 40 to 50% of that activation, same activation through the brain and the muscles, which is kind of cool. So you can actually get what you're looking for, that neurological warm-up.
So you can actually even kind of warm up and practice on your way to the course.
You can, as long as your phone and your Twitter and your Instagram aren't running and blowing you up right then. So yes, and your email.
Hopefully maybe somebody else is driving and you can just sit there and close your eyes and visualize.
Yep.
All right, so let's start talking a little bit about some of the injury stuff that we've seen on the tour. You and I were talking about this when we met that first day. Obviously Tiger's got back problems, Duffner's got back problems, Kuchar had some back problems, Jason Day, all these guys. So what's going on? We hear in some of the media outlets, are they working out too much? What is your take on some of the injuries out there?
Good question, Jeff. And so I guess we'll just start with the biggest name, and that's Tiger. So everybody always wants to know what's going on with Tiger and so forth. And if you look at Tiger, what other golfer do you know looks like the way he does? Physically, I think that he is addicted to being the strongest and the biggest, and I think that he loves working out. I think that he loves the challenge that he's providing himself with. The being the strongest he can be, but however, I think that that's playing a toll in the aspect of his injury. And whenever you have an injury like Tiger does, it's been a chronic problem that he's been dealing with all of his life. In 2008, I think it was his ankle, right? And then it was his knee, and then it was his hip, and then it was, his low back, and then he's been dealing with Achilles. And anyway you see that in the body, you can always see that it's just a chain of events happening. And what we talk about with, people that always ask us, when we're on the radio or clients ask us about Tiger, what we think. And if you look at the way Tiger walks, when he's walking down the fairway, right, you should see no transverse rotation or no rotation of his pelvis when he walks. It should just be forward and back in the sagittal plane. But when you watch Tiger walk, you can see his crease in his pants go from side to side. And that abnormal motion that he's getting is not able to be separated from his pelvis to his torso. So he's getting abnormal shearing forces, not only when he walks, but when he swings a golf club. And if you ever look at Tiger, he's very physically built in the upper body and very physically built in the lower body. But the middleman, his core, I guess you could say it, is very, very small. I think he's a size 28 waist. I think that's what somebody was telling me.
Jeez.
And that puts a lot of abnormal shearing force through his low back, right? And whenever you have an injury to a certain area in the low back or in the body, wherever, the knee or the foot, muscles automatically become silent. So all the small muscles around his low back that, give him the stability that he needs are automatically turned off because of his disc herniation that he had. And so forth. And then you get the big global muscles, like what we call the erector spinae muscles, to overtake. So you see all the golfers out there that have, tight backs that have to withdraw, like Phil Mickelson did a couple times last year, and Tiger's bad back, him saying, I always have tightness in my back, I can't get loose. That's a sign that the joint and most likely his disc injury has still not 100% better, because the body's very smart. It never locks down muscles or gets muscles tight just for the heck of it. It's protecting itself from further injuries. So tight muscles are actually a really good thing to have because it's protecting you from further significant damage to your low back. And that's what you saw, with Jason Duffner. He actually had a neck injury, and he couldn't swing the golf club because all of his muscles were tight. Right, and Matt Kuchar had a back injury, and all of his muscles get tight. And you see that all the time with golfers that have low back injuries. Everybody's saying, my back's getting tight, I can't swing the club. And it's because of the joint injuries that you're sustaining, whether it's coming from the low back or whether it's coming from the knee or coming from the hip, coming from the thoracic spine, decreased mobility. That's what you have to look at. And we always use the big brother, little brother analogy. It's the little brother that's crying after the big brother beats him up. But, what's the problem? It's the big brother. So the low back's always crying. It's always being hurt. But is that the major cause of it? Most likely not. It's most likely a decreased mobility problem in the thoracic spine, or it's coming from your hips or your knees or your ankle, And like I said, we can use Tiger, for example, as all of his injuries started from the ground up. And that's just what you see all across the board, whether it's pros, top level amateurs, or the weekend warriors, or just guys that are out there struggling to swing the club and just have just deficiencies or muscle tightness wherever they have it.
I love that analogy, the big brother, little brother. I've never heard that before, but we get so focused on the area that's painful, the squeaky wheel syndrome, whatever is painful, you just kind of treat that directly. And I think that's where it comes in to be so important for somebody to, when they do have an injury, to go see somebody like you, or see a fitness professional or a physical therapist like myself, or go to their physician that has a bit more of a global approach to looking at, how the body's moving, where are the deficiencies, where's the lack of motion, where's the stability, because it's not just because your knee hurts doesn't mean that it's your knee that's causing the problem.
Absolutely correct. Right. Yep. And that's what does, and the last couple of years, there have been some great screens out there, that have really helped people figure out where the deficiency is at, whether it's the TPI or the SFMA, or whatever it may be. We use bits and pieces of each one of those, and we have our own set of criteria that we use as well. But, whatever it is, the screens are what helps people figure out where the big brother, AKA, is. What's the major problem that's causing the initial injury and so forth. So you're absolutely correct. And it's all about, finding what that problem is, and then really honing in on that and figuring out, do I need to get this guy stronger, through his core? Do I need to get this guy more mobile through his thoracic spine? Do I need to get more internal rotation of his hips? And whatever it is, then you can have your medical model, your medical treatment hub, fitness hub, and you say, hey, Mrs. Jones, I think you need to get stronger in this area. I want you to go see my buddy Jeff. He does a great job with golfers. Or, Mrs. Jones, I think you need to get more thoracic mobility. I think you need to get, stretched out more, or whatever it may be. You need to go see Dr. Austin out at Winchester Spine and Sport, or whatever it may be, And from there, you got to really aggressively attack the big, major, what we call Texas-sized dysfunctions, and then go from there, and then let everything else sort its way out.
So let's kind of boil this down a little bit for our listeners, and let's make a specific example out of this. So take your, let's say, 40-year-old to 50-year-old male population, because I think that's probably where a lot of our listeners fall into that category. Maybe, some younger, some older. But what would you say are maybe the top 2 or 3 big impairments or dysfunctions that you run into with these guys? And then what are some of the things that they may be seeing in their swing that these issues can cause?
Sure. The number one thing that I would say I'd have to see is probably lack of thoracic mobility. As we sit all day long, right, gravity pulls us forward into a forward drawn position. We never ever get into what we call extension, right? Opening up the chest and allowing your body to really fully get extended, right? Well, that's going to absolutely hinder the golf swing, both in the backswing and the downswing. And what you'll see when you have that problem is either a big time lift out of the arms that are trying to get up during the swing, or a big time chicken wing because they're not able to properly get the extension that they need, and or the lack of rotation that they are trying to get. And you see that all the time with the 40, 50-year-olds who are always, constantly working hard, or, sitting down in a forward-drawn position. That's the number one thing that we see, along with, I'd have to say, comes in a close second with hip mobility. As it's also related to the sitting posture. When we sit, all of our muscles think that's a normal position, and we get into a little bit of anterior hip impingement, anterior forward drawn position, and then you go back, you try to swing the club, and you have that decreased lack of internal range of motion that you're looking for in both the hips and the right hip, I guess, if you're a right-handed golfer, in the backswing, and the left hip forward through and stuff like that. And that really leads to another excessive motion through the low back, right? And that causes muscle tightness, causes low back pain, and you have to address both of those. Both, I think, are big time criteria for really starting to get loosened up and stretched out, and get your joints moving. Is the middle of the back, the thoracic spine, and also the hips.
I would say those are probably exactly the same, top 2 issues that I run into just when doing the general screen before we get into any kind of physical stuff with our clients at Elevated Performance. Lack of rotation, and that thoracic mobility can be both simply just lack of motion or lack of their ability to stabilize as they're rotating. Yep. And then the hips are a huge thing. I find so many guys, and this is guys and girls, but more so guys in my experience, but of all ages. I mean, I'm amazed at some of the high school kids that come in and they can't rotate, past 30 degrees with their left hip, and that left hip being the one where they're following through on. That's a big deal. If they can't rotate that hip, then something else is taking up all that stress.
Absolutely. More times than not, you hit it right on the head, Jeff. It's more times than not, it's the low back, right? And then people come in with low back injuries and, we don't even touch the low back. We say, listen, you need to get stronger in your low back. I'm not going to do any therapy or I'm not going to touch you in your low back. It's because the little brother, big brother analogy. It's your hip that's causing the problems. And more times than not, where do you see the most hip impingements in the golfers? It's the left hip, because they lack that internal range of motion and the follow through, and they always pinch themselves off when they're getting through. So more times than not, you see the internal range of motion decrease with the hip impingement on the left side, and that's what you always, on a right-handed golfer, that is. And that's where you see most of the problems for hip and stuff like that.
Absolutely. All right, how's your golf game these days?
It's non-existent at the time. My 7-month-old boy, he kind of takes up most of my time right now. But back before he was born, I was loving it and trying to get out as much as I can. But it's tough now with my boy and starting up the business and stuff like that. But it's going good. I hope to get back out and really get after it this winter and get stronger. Hopefully you can put together a plan for me, and then we can get stronger and get ready to hit the course in the spring.
You bet. Well, talking about your fitness program, I know you've listened to some of the podcast episodes, and I'd like to ask everybody on here, what are the things that you struggle with in your fitness or nutrition program?
Sure. It's probably just staying on track. I've always been a one who believed in hard work pays off, and I always believe that, you can outwork talent. So if you ever read the book, Talent is Overrated, that's a great book. And it talks about just how, talent is kind of not really a good term to use, because anybody who's really great works hard. So I've always believed that idea that if you put in deliberate, hard practice, you'll be good at what you do. But lately I've struggled with that just because I've done it all my life. And when I was at the University of Michigan, I kind of, hate to say it, got just burnt out of lifting weights, right? So doing it there 3 or 4 or 5 days a week just kind of burnt me out. So I struggle with that a little bit, but I'm trying to get back into it and trying to really get back in the swing of things and get stronger and make sure that I'm, being able to be the best athlete and best chiropractor and the best mom or dad and husband I can be.
Love it.
So.
All right, I haven't asked this question in the past couple episodes, and I want to get back to doing this, but...
you're going to throw me off. I've been listening to every single one of the episodes, so I've been preparing myself for these questions.
You'll get this one. So, obviously, the title is the 18 Strong Podcast. The website is 18strong.com. I just want to know, especially since you have listened to a lot of the episodes, I want to know what you would define, or how you would define the term 18 Strong for a golfer.
Sure. 18 Strong doesn't necessarily just mean physical strength, right? We talked about earlier how you stay in tune, you stay committed to each individual shot. And that's from the first tee box to the 18th tee box to the 18th green. And just staying 18 strong throughout the course and throughout your warm up, and staying 18 strong throughout your fitness, and really having a global aspect of saying, this year I'm going to get stronger. I'm going to get more physically fit. I'm going to get mentally stronger so I can have the strongest 18. I can have the 18 strong of I've ever had before. So that's what I would have to say 18 strong is, of just being committed to yourself, committed both mentally, physically, to being the best golfer you can be.
Perfect. All right, Austin. Any last parting pieces of advice before we take off here?
I'll just have to say, if you're out there on the golf course, just like I was saying before, just stay committed to each and every shot and really, truly just enjoy it, right? Don't get too frustrated with yourself. Just enjoy, the nature, enjoy landscape, and just enjoy life. Have fun out there, and just really stay committed to whatever it may be, whether you're lifting weights or whether you're, committed to your job. Just stay committed and give 110%, because that's all you can really do, and the rest will take care of itself.
And where can everybody find you online, at Winchester, all that good stuff? Sure.
We have a website. It's www.win, W-I-N, spine, S-P-I-N-E, and A-N-D, sport, S-P-O-R-T.com. withWinSpineandSport.com. You can find me on Facebook, just Austin Panter. I don't really post much on there, but I just really got into Instagram and Twitter, and that's at Chiro, CHIRO _ Panter, PANTER, both Instagram and Twitter. So.
Awesome, man. And everybody that has listened before knows that we'll go ahead and put all this stuff on the show notes page. And if you guys haven't been on the website and you've just been listening to the podcast, by all means, head over to the 18strong.com, search for Austin. We'll have his episode. We'll have, a picture of him and, have some background information and all the links that we've talked about in here. I'll link to the book, Talent is Overrated. So you guys have that. And, you can find out more about him, catch him on Twitter, all that good stuff. Austin, I greatly appreciate it. I think this was a great episode, tons of information, and hopefully you'll be getting a few more calls at Winchester Spine and Sport from the people in the Midwest and hopefully even beyond. And I'll be seeing you in just a couple days out in sunny San Diego at the World Golf Fitness Summit.
You bet. I can't wait. It's going to be fun to really put name to faces from all these people that I've listened to over the last couple of weeks. And Jeff, I just really want to say, thank you so much for having me on. You're doing a wonderful job. You're really getting some great names out there, and just keep up the good work. And if this is your first podcast that you listen to, I'm sorry, but just continue listening to Jeff, and his podcast is doing great. Listen to all of the episodes. Make sure you subscribe and really help him out because he's doing a great job and has a great philosophy and so forth. So
I really, really appreciate it.
You bet, Jeff. Thanks, buddy.
Thanks. We'll talk soon.
Bye-bye.
Well, as you guys can see, Austin is a very intelligent young man, very well-spoken, and just a genuinely great dude that I really I'm honored to have had the pleasure of hanging out with him a little bit and getting to know him, and I'm looking forward to doing some stuff in the future, especially around here in the St. Louis market where we are. I think the guys at Winchester Spine and Sport have some pretty big things up their sleeve, so I can't wait to get to know them a little bit better and see what they have coming. By all means, check out Austin on Twitter. I'm sure he would be happy to answer some of your questions. He's on there quite a bit. You can follow where he's going, what players he's working with, all that good stuff. Austin, personal message to you. I just want to thank you for coming on the show, and it really was great hanging out with you. I wish we had a little bit more time to catch up, but we've got plenty of time in the future. So thank you again, man, for taking the time to come on the show, and also just to make the time and pick me out at the World Golf Fitness Summit so we had a chance to talk a little bit. You guys can find all the information on Austin, Winchester Spine and Sport in the links on the show notes page, of course, as always. If you haven't been over to 18strong.com, by all means, go over there. There are some articles that I've written over the past several weeks regarding, just everything golf fitness related. We put out one article a week at this point. But again, the idea of 18 Strong is not to be the Jeff Pellizzero show. I want this to be more about you guys getting the best information from the best minds that are out there, and I by no means consider my mind to be one of the best ones out there. After going to a summit like this or conference like this, you realize how many smart people there are out there and how much more we can all learn. So if you're not continuing to learn and strive, you're moving in the wrong direction. But I by no means want to stand on a pedestal and say that what I'm preaching is the greatest thing out there. I want to teach, or I want to bring these other minds on and let them kind of share the platform. So it's not the Jeff Pellizzero show. We want to highlight the best of the best in the world for you guys. And hopefully in the future we will be doing more of that, getting more writers, some of these folks to hopefully maybe contribute some more information to the articles that are written, which I think would be awesome. There are a lot of cool things coming ahead. Like I said, we met a lot of neat people that hopefully will be joining us on the podcast. Got to play around with some of the newest gadgets that are out regarding golf fitness, golf technology. We actually got one of the Earnest Sports ES14 launch monitors to bring back to the elevated performance training center. So we're going to goof around with that a little bit there and check that out, and we'll give you guys some feedback, let you know how that is. And then, there were some other things that we were able to play with, and we'll look into a little bit more and hopefully give you guys some good reviews as to what's coming out and what you can use to help improve your game. Not that we're all about gadgets and stuff like that, but, we all like our toys to tinker with, so that's cool too. Always, please follow us on Twitter. Catch up with us. Say hello. Mention, just come on Facebook. Check out what we've got going on. We'd love to check out what you have going on. So feel free to post stuff on 18 Strong's Facebook page. If you've got anything golf fitness related that you think is worthy of sharing with the audience, by all means, I would love for you to do so. And as always, throw out a hashtag 18 Strong. Let us know that you're out there, and hopefully we can connect in the future. Remember, train hard. Practice smart, play better golf.
Thanks for listening to the 18 Strong podcast at www.18strong.com. And remember, train hard, practice smart, and play better golf.